My dear friends in truth, as Joel S. Goldsmith so often began, he would look out at a gathering such as this, and he would address us not as spectators, but as fellow travelers on the path. He would call us students, for we are all students of the great mystery. And so I speak to you now not to a crowd, but to a classroom of the soul. Let me ask you a simple question. Have you ever felt it, a quiet hum beneath the noise of the world? A whisper that there is a pattern, a divine choreography to which your life is set, a feeling that you were, in some way you cannot fully explain, selected for a purpose. This is not a fantasy reserved for the few. This is the forgotten truth for the many. The idea of the chosen one has been twisted, sold to us as a story of a single savior in a distant land. But what if that story is a mirror? What if the prophecy was never about one, but about one in Nezal? And what if the date, November 10, is not a deadline written in the stars, but a doorway that opens in the heart, a moment of collective awakening, a miracle of perception available to anyone who is ready to see? The real event is not in the sky, it is in here. And what unfolds next, what I am about to share with you, will challenge everything you believe about your own power and your place in this universe. If this truth resonates with you, if you feel the call of your own spirit, then do not let this be just another video you watch. This is a signal. Like this video, if you are receiving it, comment the number FF1110 a symbol of this new beginning, a marker that you were here, and subscribe, for the journey is only just beginning, and we have so much further to go together. Of course, let us explore this first keynote. The chosen one is a mirror. This idea, my friends, is the very foundation upon which our understanding must be built. For centuries, we have been sold a story, a grand, externalized narrative of a singular hero, a lone messiah, a solitary figure who descends from the heavens to fix a broken world. We have been taught to look upward and outward for our salvation, to wait for a sign, for a Savior who will come on the clouds to absolve us of our own spiritual responsibility. We have placed the power of the miracle outside of ourselves, and in doing so, we have fallen asleep to the miracle that we are. The story of the chosen one was never meant to be a historical account of a single person. It is, and always has been, a cosmic blueprint for the potential of every individual soul. It is an allegory for the journey of consciousness itself. When you hear those words, the chosen one, what arises within you? Is it a sense of separation, of unworthiness, a feeling that such a title could never apply to you? Or does it stir a memory of a faint echo from the very core of your being, a knowing that you too were selected for this precise moment in time? The mirror does not show you what you are not. It shows you what you are, but have forgotten. The story of the chosen one reflects back to you your own divine origin, your own capacity for unconditional love, and your own latent power to perform what the world would call miracles. The Messiah is not a person to be worshipped. The messianic principle is a state of consciousness to be realized. It is the Christ within, the Buddha nature, the Atman, the unbroken, undivided essence of God that is the true identity of every man, woman, and child. When you look at the figure of the chosen one in any sacred text, you are not reading about a distant deity. You are reading a symbolic map of your own awakening. The baptism in the river is the purification of your own mind. The time in the wilderness is your own confrontation with temptation and ego. The healing of the sick is the restoration of wholeness to your own fragmented perceptions. And the resurrection is the ultimate triumph of your true spiritual identity over the illusion of death and separation. So The call is not to find the chosen one. The call is to realize that you are the one you have been waiting for. You were chosen not for special privileges, but for a sacred responsibility. You were chosen to embody the divine here and now. In this body, in this life, with these circumstances, the selection was made in the heart of God before the world was formed. Your name was written in the book of life. The question is not whether you are chosen. The question is whether you will have the courage to accept it, to look squarely into that mirror and finally recognize the face of the one you have been seeking your entire life. And so we arrive at the natural, the inevitable consequence of this realization. If the chosen one is a mirror reflecting our own divine identity, then the entire landscape of our spiritual journey shifts. We can no longer remain passive observers, waiting for an external prophecy to unfold. We are called to move from prophecy to personal responsibility. This is the great turning point, the pivot upon which an entire lifetime of seeking balances. For too long, the concept of prophecy has been a cage, a set of predictions that we anxiously await as if our lives were a script written by another hand. We look for signs in the heavens and portents in the news, hoping for validation that we are on the right path, that the date is correct, that the miracle is coming. But this is to misunderstand the very nature of prophecy. True prophecy is not a forecast of an inevitable future. It is a diagnosis of the present moment. It is a description of the potential future that will unfold if the present state of consciousness remains unchanged. It is a warning and a promise, not a fixed destiny. When you understand this, the weight of prophecy lifts from your shoulders and is replaced by the power of your own choice. The date on the calendar, November 10, is no longer a deadline set by God, but a divine invitation issued to your soul. It is a focal point in time, a nexus of energy where the veil between the world of effect and the world of cause becomes thin. What happens on that date is not something done to you, but something that is activated through you. The miracle is contingent upon your recognition of it. This is the essence of personal responsibility in the spiritual life. It is the acknowledgement that your consciousness is not a passive recipient of grace, but the very apparatus through which grace enters the world. Your thoughts, your feelings, your inner state of surrender or resistance. This is the substance that either allows the miracle to manifest or holds it at bay. This responsibility is not a burden of labor, but a discipline of attention. It is not about striving and struggling to become worthy. You are already worthy. It is about clearing the channel of your own awareness so that the infinite worthiness that you are can flow forth unimpeded. It means taking absolute responsibility for the world you perceive, for you are not perceiving an objective reality, but projecting a subjective one. The conflict you see outside is a reflection of the conflict you harbor within. The separation you experience from God is a story you are telling yourself. To take personal responsibility is to become the author of a new story. It is to withdraw the power you have given to external circumstances and to reinvest that power in the one place where true change can ever occur, the silent, sacred ground of your own being. The prophecy of a new heaven and a new earth is waiting for its fulfillment, and it waits not on a star in the sky, but on the consent of your own heart. And this brings us to the practical application, the point where the rubber meets the road of our daily existence. For a truth that is not lived is merely a philosophy, and a responsibility that has no focal point is just an abstraction. This is the purpose of the date, November 10. It is not a prediction, but a portal. It is not an end, but an inner doorway. So many are waiting for a spectacle. They are waiting for the sky to crack open and for a voice to thunder down from the heavens, offering irrefutable proof that God is real. They are waiting for an external event so magnificent, so undeniable, that it will forever silence the skeptic within. But, my dear students, this is to misunderstand the language of the divine. God does not shout from the mountaintops. God whispers from within the heart. The miracle is not an event that happens to the world. It is a shift that happens within the individual. And then, as a natural consequence, the world is transformed. November 10 then is a collectively agreed upon moment, a sacred appointment in time where we, as a growing body of awakened consciousness, choose to consciously and simultaneously step through that doorway within. Think of it as a spiritual solstice. Just as the planetary solstice is a precise astronomical moment that marks a shift in the relationship between the Earth and the Sun, this date represents a potential shift in the relationship between humanity and its source. It is a hinge in time, an opportunity to consciously align our individual will with the divine will. The doorway does not lead to a new location, it leads to a new perception. It is the transition from seeing ourselves as separate entities buffeted by the winds of fate to knowing ourselves as inseparable expressions of the one life. On one side of the doorway is the old paradigm of fear, separation, and seeking. On the other side is the realized paradigm of love, unity, and being. This doorway is open to everyone, but it must be walked through voluntarily. No one can be carried across. The key that unlocks it is not a complex ritual or a secret knowledge possessed by a few. The key is a conscious, deliberate act of surrender. It is the willingness to release our tight grip on the old identity, the one that feels small, vulnerable, and alone. It is the courage to let go of the need for external validation and to trust the quiet, internal certainty of the Spirit. This doorway exists at the still point beyond thought, in the sacred space between one breath and the next. To approach it, we must be willing to lay down the burdens we have carried for a lifetime. The grudges, the judgments, the story of our past hurts, and future anxieties. We walk through not by adding something to ourselves, but by letting everything false fall away. The date is simply the moment we all agree to meet at the threshold and take that step together, reinforcing each other's faith and magnifying the light. It is an invitation to cross over from the theoretical understanding that we are one with God to the lived experience of that truth. And what awaits us on the other side of that doorway, it is not a new world, but the same world seen through new eyes. This is the great miracle. The only miracle there ever truly is a shift in perception. We have been conditioned to believe that a miracle is a suspension of natural law, a spectacular intervention that bends the physics of our universe to the will of a distant God. We wait for the healing of the body, the sudden windfall of wealth, the dramatic rescue from calamity. But these, if they occur, are merely effects, the distant echoes of the true causal event, which is always, without exception, an internal shift. The real miracle is when the veil of separation drops away, even for an instant, and we perceive the underlying unity of all life. It is a change not in the facts of your life, but in your relationship to those facts. This shift is the very essence of the Christ revelation, the Buddhist enlightenment, the core of every authentic mystical experience. It is the moment the prodigal son comes to himself and remembers his true home. Nothing in his external circumstances had changed yet. He was still in the distant country, surrounded by the husks of his past mistakes. But his perception had shifted, and that single internal event made his journey home inevitable. This is the miracle we are invited to experience. It is the movement from a consciousness of lack to a consciousness of abundance, from a consciousness of fear to a consciousness of love, from a consciousness of judgment to a consciousness of grace. When this shift occurs, the world you perceive cannot help but be transformed, for you are now perceiving it from the standpoint of its divine cause, not its chaotic effects. This is why the healing of the body so often follows a healing of the mind. It is why solutions to seemingly intractable problems appear as if from nowhere when we release our frantic grasping. The miracle is not that the stormy sea becomes calm. The miracle is that you discover the Christ within you who can speak to the storm, and the storm, which was ever only a projection of your own inner turmoil, obeys. You are not changing the world. You are withdrawing the power your false perceptions gave to the world, and in that withdrawal, the world is restored to its natural state of harmony. This is the practical, tangible power of this work. A perceived enemy becomes a brother you had forgotten. A financial lack becomes an invitation to trust in a supply that has never failed. A sick body becomes a temple calling for a more devoted consecration. The circumstance itself may remain for a time, but its power to disturb your peace, to define your reality, is gone. You have performed the ultimate miracle. You have chosen to see love where you once saw fear. You have chosen to see the face of God in the mirror, in the stranger, and in the very challenges that once seemed to define your separation from Him. This altered perception is the light that then heals the world. This leads us to the beautiful and profound paradox at the heart of this awakening. If the miracle is a shift in perception, then who is the one perceiving and who is the one shifting? This is where the path turns inward to the very core of our identity. You are the student and the lesson. The journey you are on is not toward a destination outside of yourself, but into the depths of your own being. The classroom is your own life with all its joys and sorrows, its triumphs and its tribulations. Every relationship is a sacred text. Every challenge, a pop quiz from the divine. Every moment of peace, a final exam you have passed. You are not here to learn a set of facts, but to unlearn a lifetime of misperceptions. You are not accumulating knowledge. You are remembering what you have always known. The ego, the small, separate sense of self, believes it is a student who must strive, achieve, and become worthy. It sees the lesson as something external to be mastered. But the spirit, your true identity, knows that you are the lesson itself. Your life, exactly as it is unfolding, is the curriculum designed perfectly for your awakening. The person who irritates you is not a mistake in your environment. They are a specific chapter assigned to you on the subject of forgiveness. The financial worry that keeps you awake at night is not a sign of a failed life. It is a practical seminar on the nature of trust and true abundance. You are not a passive victim of your circumstances. You are an active participant in a meticulously crafted educational experience where you are both the pupil and the subject matter. This understanding transforms seeking into finding. The frantic search for a guru, a secret teaching, or a perfect technique out there in the world begins to quiet. You realize the ultimate teacher is not a person, but the silence within your own heart. And that teacher uses the language of your own life to communicate. The curriculum is not written in books. It is written in the patterns of your relationships, the echoes of your childhood, the recurring themes of your struggles. When you accept that you are the lesson, you stop trying to escape your life and instead begin to read it with the reverence it deserves. You begin to ask, what is this situation here to reveal to me about myself? What belief is being challenged? What attachment is being loosened? You are not a flawed being trying to become perfect. You are a whole and complete being currently studying the fascinating and often painful illusion of your own perceived flaws. Every moment is an opportunity to graduate from a limited understanding of who you are to a more expansive one. The goal is not to complete the lesson, for the lesson is infinite, but to fall in love with the learning itself, to embrace the beautiful, humbling, and eternal truth that you are both the seeker and the sought, the question and the answer unfolding in the glorious mystery of your own existence. And this final, glorious understanding is what binds our entire journey together. For this awakening is not a solitary achievement, a private salvation enjoyed in a secluded corner of heaven. The realization that you are the student and the lesson inevitably, irrevocably expands to encompass all of creation. The awakening is a collective event. The moment you truly perceive the Christ in yourself, you cannot help but see it in your brother. The instant you touch the peace that passes all understanding within your own soul, you recognize that this same peace is the fundamental substance every other soul, regardless of how deeply it may be buried. The doorway you walk through is not into a private chamber, but into the grand cathedral of a shared consciousness. Your individual shift in perception is a note that, when struck, causes the entire web of being to resonate in harmony. This is the true meaning of the mystical body of Christ, the Buddha field, the Sangha. We are not separate drops trying to find our way back to the ocean. We are the ocean, momentarily experiencing itself as individual waves. When one wave remembers its true nature as the whole ocean, it elevates the consciousness of every other wave. Your peace contributes to the collective peace. Your forgiveness heals a wound in the family of man that you may never see with your physical eyes. Your victory over fear in your small, personal life is a crack in the wall of the world's fear. There is no such thing as a private thought, for every thought is broadcast on the frequency of the one mind. A thought of love sent out from your quiet room does its work in the heart of a stranger across the globe. A thought of judgment and separation adds its weight to the collective burden. This is why the date November 10 holds such power. It is a concerted focus of intention. It is a synchronized decision made by countless individual souls across the planet to step through that inner doorway together. Imagine the amplification of light. Imagine the cumulative power of millions of hearts, each releasing its own particular burden of fear, each choosing to see with the eyes of love at the same appointed moment in time. This is not a political movement or a social campaign. It is a spiritual event of unprecedented scale, an internal revolution that will, by its very nature, manifest externally. The old world, built on the foundation of separation, cannot withstand such a concentrated influx of unifying consciousness. It must respond as a shadow must flee from a sudden collective illumination. Your personal awakening is the most profound gift you can give to the world, for it is not your gift alone. In healing your own perception, you are healing a fragment of the one mind. In claiming your identity as the chosen one, you are making it easier for your brother to claim his. We are not here to save ourselves, but to remember that there is only one self to save and that we are all indivisibly that one.